Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our church. It's lovely to see you all, and welcome to everyone on Zoom or on Facebook or just reading the service. Today is World Mental Health Day, and it represents your inner and outer mental health, and we have to look after our mental health. So part of the service will touch on that. And the service itself should have been called Safeguarding Sunday, but I thought that would turn everybody off, so I changed the title. But churches and religious places across the country are doing safeguarding services today, so part of the service is about safeguarding. May this place be one of nurture, where we all may come to know how endless love sustains us as we live, move, and grow. May we live life in all its fullness. And living life in all its fullness means singing really loud to our first hymn. Okay? And it's the Purple Book, number 142, Shining Through the Universe. And I think perhaps Erna, one of our one of our elders, I nearly said an old member, but one of our elders, she may well be looking at this and in Yorkshire, and this is one of her favourite hymns. Next week you will do slightly better with your singing. That was cheeky, wasn't it? Kathy will now read the story of the Good Samaritan. Thank you, Kathy.
I've chosen it from I don't really know this translation, but it's, I looked at several because my book fell apart. But also, and then I found a very thin one, and I thought, not thin, the writing was small. And then I thought I'd go online. And this is a New Living Translation. And it's from Luke, it's a parable extract of the Good Samaritan, from Luke 25 to 37. One day, an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question: "Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus replied, "What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it?" The man answered, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "Right," Jesus told him. "Do this and you will live." The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied with a story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him for dead beside the road. By chance, a priest came along, but when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side and passed him by. A temple assistant walked over and looked at him lying there. He also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along, and he saw the man and felt compassion for him. Going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them. Then he put the man on his own donkey and took him to an inn where he took care of him. The next day he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, "Take care of this man. If his bills run higher than this, I will pay you the next time I'm here." Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by the bandits? Jesus asked. The man replied, "The one who showed him mercy." Then Jesus said, "Yes, now go and do the same."
Thank you, Kathy. Beautifully read, and I don't think we need any explanation of that story. But I would like to tell you another little story. Some of you were at the dance the other week, and Christina from Romania was at dance in the last piece, and she invited me to her dissertation. And I expected it to be dance, but it wasn't. It was a monologue plus film plus dance. And I just feel I like to share this with you. So I can't remember it, and I can't do it in the way she did it because I'm not an actress. But she was talking about coming over here from Romania and saying to her parents, you know, I really want to go and study in England. And her mum and dad didn't want her to because they wanted to buy a new car. They didn't want to give her the money, basically. But someone else said, well, that's ridiculous. You don't, you know, you can't speak English. And she said, yes, I can. She said, I have academic English and have pop music English. And then she came here feeling really quite confident. And she actually, the students all met in McDonald's, and the first thing the person said to her, "Coffee to go, love?" And then she thought, I don't know what they're saying. And, you know, it just made me think, you know, we could link that to the Good Samaritan even. It just made me think of how you feel if you're going to live in another country. And I think sometimes we need to stand back and think about that. So I just wanted to share that story with you, really. So now we'll have some quiet prayer time. So if you sit quietly for a couple of minutes. Divine Spirit, we come to you in the knowledge that you hold us all in your unconditional love. We lift to you those who are vulnerable and need protection. Give them safety, comfort, and peace. We lift to you those who are hurting and whose trust has been broken. Give them healing, restoration, and justice. We thank you for all who give their time, knowledge, and skills to make communities safer. Give them your wisdom, guidance, and grace. For ourselves, we ask you to help us help the vulnerable, the oppressed, the voiceless, and the forgotten. Help us to see them as you see them, Divine Spirit, to value them as you value them, and to nurture them as you would desire. Help each one of us play our part in creating safer places for all. May it be so. And the second prayer is adapted from a prayer by Archbishop Oscar Romero. Divine Spirit, grant us a vision of your world filled with love, a world where the weak are protected and none go hungry or poor, a world where the riches of creation are shared and everyone can enjoy them, a world where different races and cultures live in harmony and mutual respect, a world where peace is built with justice and justice is guided by love. Give us the inspiration and courage to work towards this world. Amen. And we'll now have some quiet time, followed by reflective music.
Art thou troubled? Music will calm thee. Art thou weary? Rest shall be thine. Rest shall be thine. Music, source of all gladness, heals thy sadness at her shrine. Music, music ever divine. Music, music calleth with voice divine. When the welcome spring is smiling, and the flowers of earth beguiling, after winter's weary rain, sweetest music doth attend her heavenly harmonies, doth lend her, chanting praises in her train, chanting praises in her train. Art thou troubled? Music will calm thee. Art thou weary? Rest shall be thine. Rest shall be thine. Music, source of all gladness, heals thy sadness at her shrine. Music, music ever divine. Music,
What a divine voice. And that was beautifully chosen by Myron. So thank you, Myron, for choosing that music. So, as I said earlier, this should have been called Safeguarding Sunday Service, and I changed the title. But I am your safeguarding officer, so if there is any issue you have a worry about, particularly to do with safeguarding in the church or anywhere else come to that matter, please come and talk to me. I'll come back to this later. We belong to a body called 31/8 who advises churches if there are any safeguarding issues. They sent us a download of a service today, but it was so High Church of England that I didn't really understand it, so I changed it. so it didn't really fit in with our church. And that's why I've called it Looking After Ourselves and Others. So let's start with looking after ourselves. As is always said, you can't look after others until you look after yourself. You may or may not be into mindfulness or meditation, but you could do things like start a self-care journal, jotting down how you feel daily, tracking your sleep, your habits, and I've talked before about a jar that you put little things in every day, what you're grateful for. Use your friends to phone if you feel down. You could add pictures to, I don't know, a vision board, or make yourself a mandala to colour. Another way that's really important that we don't do enough of is actually through movement. Even a 10-minute walk a day often makes you feel better because of the pheromones, that the endorphins you get from walking. Reading, cooking, napping, or just daydreaming is looking after yourself. It's not selfishness. And I know you've all heard this before, but as I state, your safeguarding officer, I have to look after your well-being as well. We all let self-care go by the wayside, because even if we are working or retired, life is very busy. Remember, it is important to take time out and do at least one thing a day for your mental health. Moving on to looking after others, caring about each other, animals, and our earth is part of our innate divine DNA. Sometimes it's hard because we are human, but let's keep trying. I heard a beautiful caring story last Sunday. Just have to have a sip of water. Bear with me. That will keep you wondering what the story is. I wanted some quiet time, and often before I come here, I go and sit and look at the boats with a cup of coffee, because it just, I don't know, it's something special about that. And a woman I hadn't seen before the first lockdown asked if she could sit with me. Oh, I really didn't want her to. I wanted to sit quietly, but no. And I said to her, I need to finish my book because I've got book group. And she took no notice of that and sat down and got out her cigarettes, which I didn't really like the cigarette bit. But then she told me about being born in Plymouth and about the rebuilding of Plymouth after the war. And then she told me this caring, beautiful story. Her sister was going to get married. All the neighbours had collected their coupons for her to have a wedding dress. The two sisters had been in a shelter the night before, and that morning they returned home to find only the door of the family house standing. Everything else was gone. But Grandad was standing there with nothing in his hands but the wedding dress. He knew how important it was, and he'd somehow managed to save the wedding dress. And I think that's a really wonderful example of love and care about someone else. So let's try to be kind and compassionate to each other. This can be by words or actions. Are you willing to put your own concerns aside and see that our loved ones are looked after? And I'm talking about in our church as well. And they have the best quality of life they can. This shows love and compassion, but also it shows a meeting of souls. This is not always easy, and we will fail many times over and over again, often just through sheer tiredness. But let's keep trying. Moving on to safeguarding, and here I am talking about the church really. We do have a safeguarding policy, and I did mean to bring a few with me, as do all religious institutions. And we need everyone in the church to feel safe and secure. If you do ever feel unsafe or see something you don't feel comfortable about, please let me, Kate, or one of the committee know. I'd like to quote from Unitarian Universalist Safety Covenant. Covenant is Latin for coming together. I think Chris would know that, wouldn't you, Chris? Is it right? Thank you. And they say, the well-being, strength and reputation of our church depends on a sense of fellowship among our congregation. It thrives in an atmosphere of trust, respect and cooperation. Within such an atmosphere, differences of opinions and their resolution through compromise or consensus can enhance a sense of community. And there's another covenant which I think we might think about in the future, and this is from FaithWorks. We build our church on a foundation of love and covenant with each other, to freely explore our values and honour our diversity as a source of communal strength, to accept responsibility for our individual acts and promote justice and peace, to celebrate the joys of discovery, embracing the fullest measure of our humanity, to communicate with kindness and support, to serve with compassion and commitment, to openly share laughter, but also tears, to show reverence for the divine in all that it is. So I do think maybe in the future we could think of something like that for our church. And I know that was quite a different service to what I normally do, but I think there was a lot of things for you to think about there. So thank you for listening. And we'll now move on to our second hymn, Purple Book 186. We are travellers on a journey. If you wish to stand, you can. If you don't, stay sitting. It's up to you.
When rhinos are exploded and
beautiful singing that time. And I'd like to close this service with a benediction, which I took from Sheila's Oasis of Calm leaflet. And I'd just like to say it has been quite stressful the last few weeks with, you know, everything going on here and looking after other people. And I did look after myself by coming to Oasis of Calm, which I really needed. So I would encourage people to come and join it because it's so relaxing. Beautiful pieces of music and quiet time between. But thank you, Sheila, for letting me use this benediction. And it's from Autumn Law by Kathleen Jenks. May we make wise choices in how and what we harvest. May earth's weather turn kinder. May there be enough food for all creatures. May the diminishing light in our daytime skies be met by an increasing compassion and tolerance in our hearts. Amen.